الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه وجميع من والاه. I thank Almighty Allah. I glorify His name. I send His unlimited mercy upon the soul of the noblest Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his household, his companions, and those who are on his path till the day of accountability. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Okay, the floor is going to be open today for every one of us to reflect and to take the medium to seek for clarification on whatever that might be causing confusion for us, or what we need to know, or what is not taught in class, but there is a need for clarification so that we'll be on the safe side and serve Allah with confidence and knowledge. So with this, the floor is open to entertain questions. Bismillah.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi Sheikh. Yeah. My question is regarding this mazhab, all these the different mazhab we have in Islam, Hanafi, Shafi, and the likes. So I attended a class whereby the ustaz was teaching us about all those mazhab. But my question is it I know different countries, they follow different kind of all this school of thought. So can someone follow what's it called? Can someone follow all the mazhab instead of just following one? For example, maybe following the Hanafi school of thought or Shafi school of thought and the likes here, all those four school of thought. Is it possible for someone to just follow all those four, or there is no? I mean, is there any? There is no need for that. Instead of just following four, you can just follow one.
Okay. Alhamdulillah. For it is to be clarified that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only sent Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to the people of this generation and no one else. Islam should be practiced in the dictation and line of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. His sayings, his approvals, and his actions. But at times, there might be issues in Islam where there are divergent options for a Muslim to choose or to apply to his own peculiar condition. Now, this mazahib, Hanafi, Shafi'i, Maliki, Abu Hanifa, they all came after the Sahaba and tried every possible best to collate the teachings of the prophets with the understanding of the Sahaba and apply them in their own peculiar societies. So for strictly sticking to one is not good. Combining them together, in as much as they don't go against the fundamental principles of Islam or a clear evidence from Quran or Hadith. Anytime they go in contrary with that, their opinion should be dropped. Their understanding is good, but if any of their understanding is far away from the teaching of Islam or contradicts a clear-cut evidence from Kitab or Sunnah, then they should be dropped. We don't need to seek for Imam Malik's opinion before we continue practicing our Islam. All we need is the opinion or the injunctions of Allah, that of his prophets, and the understanding of Sahaba. But if we could not find a clear-cut evidence there, then we now look into the book of law. The book of law are the books written by those madhahib. They will seek their own understanding, then affirm our belief. But there is a popular saying of Imam Malik in one of his write-up. He says, "Kullu imamin yukhadhu minhu wa yuraddu, illa sahibu hadha al-qabr." He said, every imam is entitled to be every imam's opinion is entitled to be respected and at the same time to be rejected. But only the owner of this masjid. And who is the owner of that masjid that he was referring to? Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You can never reject whatever the prophet says, because he does not just utter any statement except with revelation. Quran says, وَمَا يَنْطِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَىٰ. He doesn't talk on his will, but on revelation. So every other person is not receiving revelation, then we can respect their opinion, and as well we can reject them. So sticking to one madhab is of no good to proper Islamic understanding. Thank you, sir.
Jazakallah khairan.
Any other question? Hello?
We can hear you, sir. People are still thinking about what to ask. I guess, but yeah, we can hear you, sir.
Okay. So we need to understand that Maliki says, Shafi'i says, Imam Ahmad says, Abu Hanifa says, does not mean that is all. Even they, when they were alive, they used to say that whatever I say that is not in tandem with the saying of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam or the word of Allah, please do not accept it, do not respect it. Stay away from it, because they were human beings. They were not perfect as well. Well, alhamdulillah, they were better off. So their understanding was so deep that they could control any Islamic ummah, any Muslim ummah. But with that, there should be restriction, and there should be a limit to which we follow them, especially if it goes against a clear evidence from the Quran and the Sunnah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So I think we talked so much about nikah, marriage, than not having questions. Does that mean we've forgotten what we all learned here? Or just that we don't want to talk?
No, not at all, Doctor. I would like to ask question or more information about the void marriage. On void marriage.
You said?
The category of void marriage, the nikah that is void.
Okay.
If you can please take us more on it.
I think we mentioned that last week and upper week. Which one do you want to know there? Or you want us to repeat that class?
A bit, especially the area of, I know it's not void per se, whereby it's a limited contractual period, which happens to be one of the classification you talk about. My question would then be, is that a void one or it's not void?
It's void. You can't contract marriage with time. Any marriage that is contracted on time, a particular days or months or years, is null and void in Islam. The Prophet stood against it. It means you are playing on intelligence of the female. You are subjecting them to humiliation and degradation of human integrity. So, and Islam protects human dignity and integrity so much so that everyone should be treated important in any given society. So why would you say, I want to marry you for 4 months, I want to marry you for 6 months, I want to marry you for 2 years, then after 2 years, the contract is terminated? Who says who? Who does that? In Islam? No. Don't play on their intelligence, don't waste their time, don't take them for granted. Don't take advantage of them. If you want to marry, marry. Do not limit the time at which you want to be in that marriage. An example of that is telling a woman that I want to marry you, but you are not going to bear a child for me. That's nonsense. Any woman that can bear child should be allowed to bear a child. If you are not interested in bearing child, do not make that a condition while you are marrying him. So, which means the business condition and the process is not clear, because one has it in the mind that I will dump her after so years, while one has relied totally in as a spouse that this is a contract of life and we are going to live the rest of our life together. So it's a damage of mental health.
Brother Abdulaziz, please go ahead with your question.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Is Alaji done with his question though? I don't think he got to
Yes,
reply.
I'm done. Shukran.
Jazakallah khairan. I just wanted, before I ask my question, just wanted to make a point based on some of the stuff that Ustaz has said. Seems like these kind of time-based marriages can be abused more in terms of the ladies, because they are on borrowed time when it comes to reproduction and beauty. So in a way, it's more, I'll say it's more evil when men are the one propagating such marriages. My question is about the current situation with Israel and Palestine. I guess it's a big undertaking. This may require a lecture on its own. uh, you can say I made enemies both of Muslim friends and of secular or non-Muslim friends, in the sense that when this first broke out and accusations and conversations were flowing from both left and right, I was one of the people that was saying, where are the imams, for example, condemning what was being presented at the time, though we now know some of it are lies, that where are the imams condemning what was happening at the time, to the Israeli civilians. Little did I know that that was going to be used as a point to carry out genocide in the name, with the backing of most of the world. And at the time, a lot of Muslim friends, some didn't even want to talk to me. Some were telling me almost like a threat that thought is dangerous, almost like a threat in the sense that you keep talking that way, you may just disappear overnight. And in the coming weeks after, or should I say days after, then that the genocide, let's just call it what it is now officially backed and being carried out. I now brought back the same point that if more people, for example, had condemned that action and said something like, yes, let's say these people are the ones that did this to you, let's go and find them together and get rid of the problem, rather than facing civilians, maybe the genocide could be reduced to a degree. But let's put that all to the side. We know this is genocide going on. What is the role of Hamas here? What is the role of Iran here? We know the bombing of Israel or retaliating in this pseudo war is not going to save the civilians in Palestine. What are Muslims supposed to do? Can Muslims condemn Hamas? There is modicum of truth on both sides. We know there is propaganda. Propaganda is so so hard, for example, on Twitter, that adverts for propaganda are going onto social media, which is this will be the height, the pinnacle of propaganda I've seen. People paying for ads to propagate their agenda. But what's the solution in this case? Is what I thought at the start of condemning Hamas and then using that as a weapon to move in and say, well, we understand you hate Hamas, but you can't then kill civilians. Let's go help you find Hamas and deal with them. Or are there better solutions? What is the right way to go about solving this problem? Because there is atrocity on both sides. And we know there are also outside forces, both the powers of the West, funding things they shouldn't be funding for their own agenda. But there is also, the Middle East, the powers in the Middle East, the Islamic states, there is a genocide. Most of them are not active. Most of them don't condemn things at the right times when things are still simple. And this time it seems it's worse, or at least it's going to be historic. What can we do? What should we have done? Can we, as Muslims, fully condemn Hamas, but still side with Palestine? Yeah, my question is multifold, I guess. It's just exasperating watching things unfold as they are.
Haji Ulaziz,
Sir,
can you lecture us about the Palestine and the Israeli? It shows you have read a lot about them, and what have you come with? What have you
I
come
mean,
with?
it's a complicated history in the
Assalamu
sense
alaikum.
that Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
If the if you permit me, please. I know you're throwing the question back to our brother, but in terms of history, but I this is just my own thoughts, my own thoughts, because definitely this is an issue that all of us preoccupied all our minds. And the same kind of dilemma that my brother has, covered in terms of his questioning is the same sort of process. Even me, on a personal level, has gone through. However, my own, I don't want to simplify things, but I don't think this is the time necessarily to start going into, history, because I think a lot of us are well versed in those terms. And rather, we should actually treat the question as it is, in terms of, and actually, deal with that, directly. The way my brother has put it, is it wrong to condemn Hamas for what they did? I think that's the critical, question we need to first and foremost, deal with. From my, perspective, because I know, as Muslim, yes, it's good, to uphold, the brotherhood and what have you, all those good, how should I put it? All those good intentions and what have you. But at the end of the day, what is bad, and what is good is good. And we've got to call out for what it is. And it's a pity that, as Muslim, even from our fellow, Muslim brothers, we're afraid, to say the truth when it is clear to all reasonably thinking, person. And then what we are faced with is that, fear of invoking another extreme, reaction. Because it alarms me when my brother says, some of the brothers are even saying that that may involve endanger his own life. So what is actually going on? Why are we so wrapped up in whatever side we seem to take, and actually lose sight of the key thing about the situation in terms of wrong and right? Because at the end of the day, this is what it is about. It's about wrong and right. What is right is right. What is wrong is wrong. What is just is just. And what is injustice is injustice. And when we are not able to differentiate between those two, that's when we run into, all these kind of problems. And we live in fear of, of invoking, greater evil than, and so on. That's just my own initial, thought. That's why I think it's probably not fair to ask my brother to start going into the history of the situation, because I think in terms of history, we all know that the position the current government of Israel holds is not a tenable one. We all know that. We know it's not a just one. But because we know that, does that then mean, we cannot condemn what Hamas, has done, when it's clearly from the basics that we know of our teaching, of our religion, of the Sunnah and so on, and the Quran Kareem, when we know that this wrong counter to it that's just my, initial, thoughts on the issue on the ground. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khairan, sir. But I guess just to humor Ustaz a little bit, because I know that question is very hard, and I understand why my brother, father decided to hammer upon it, which is why I raised the question. But just humor Ustaz from
I would
my understanding. Sir?
I would say all we need to do as Muslims concerning Palestine and its people and their antagonists, that is Israeli. All we need to do now is prayer. And all what the Arab nation, or let me say Islamic organization needs to do is to support these people. Well, I learned that every route leading to support has been cut, has been blocked. So how do we support them? If your eyes cannot reach them, then your hands cannot reach them, your gift cannot reach them. There's only one thing that can reach them, that is prayer. And that prayer is going to be a prophetically prescribed prayer, not just a prayer that you understand by yourself or brought up by yourself. Those very, very simple prayers that the Prophet ﷺ used to recite and retire from it. You should be, that is what we need to do now. We just need to pray for them because they are mustad'afun. They are vulnerable, and the world power is not in their support. The world power can do anything for the Israelis to conquer and wipe out the Palestine. Why? Because they want to occupy, hijack that land and that masjid. Because that land and that masjid is of a great importance in human's life, especially those who are the Ummah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So if we dabble into politics, there is no way we will not waste our time. But notwithstanding, we should go back to the basis. We are allowed to talk so much about that land and that masjid. Many prophets were buried there. And when Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was being ascended by Jibril for excursion into the hell and the fire, into the Jannah and Jahannam, he met with all of them at that masjid and he led them in prayer. So all we need as Muslims is not about what happened, why did this thing happen? No, let's pray for them. With sincere mind, I believe our prayers will reach them and things will turn around for good for every Muslim member there. Any other one?
Assalamu alaikum. Yeah, thank you, Eustace, for that advice, which is excellent. The only other thing I want to add to the discussion is that, quite clearly, the Israelis are also, their reaction cannot be justified, especially in terms of, denying, people, water, electricity, essential, things, things of life. And it's quite clear their current approach, as everybody, that every right-thinking person have come to realize is against international law as it stands, and it's against any law you can we wish to quote, and once they may have justification or a notion of wanting to seek revenge, that does not legitimize the approach of collective judgment and killing innocent men and women of Palestine. And for that reason, I can say I'm pleased that a number of people are standing up and actually standing up vocally and standing up for Palestine, and reminding our especially the Western world that they cannot pick and choose. Just as I said, what is wrong, and what is right. They can't pick and choose when international law becomes, applicable. And if they allow Israel to just, cash on blanche, right, to just do as it pleases, then that will clearly show the height of their hypocrisy, and it was something that will definitely come back to haunt them, if not now, but in the future. So I'm pleased that our people standing up and insisting that when it does settle, the question of the Israelis occupying that land would not even arise, and those displaced Palestinians will have the right to come back into their, homeland. And I think that should be our focus now as well, in terms of what we can, do to make sure, justice is maintained. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam
Yeah.
wa rahmatullah. Hello?
Yes,
Can you hear
Ustaz, yeah. I've come to an end in terms of my contribution.
Thank you very much for that contribution. So it's a wonderful one. So I will reiterate what I've said before, that what they need from us, if we can't reach them with our money, our hands, our presence, but our prayer goes a long way. So let's not forget them in our daily prayers, whatever it may be. May Allah support them and protect them as well from the what's it called? From the
Oppression.
pressure and tyranny of Israel, of the Israelis, who are supported by the so-called world power. Genocide is taking place day in, day out. None of the world power nations say a word. If at all, if it were a Muslim, they were killing non-Muslims, the media would have blown it more than this. But thank God we are at the era of social media. The truth is clear now, and people are they are having more exposure and discovery with the help of social media. Now that we have all known that they are oppressing these people who don't have ammunition, people who don't have nuclear weapons. You invaded their country and start killing their younger ones and the females. So this is an oppression of the highest order. Thank you, sir.
So we have a question, and this might take some time maybe. It's about hermaphrodites, and the question is related to marriage as well as inheritance. So they're asking that if because there's there are different there are some with ambiguity and there are some that it's not clear at all. So in the sense that maybe the person has both male and female organs or genitals. So from a marriage perspective, would the marriage be valid? In terms of what they have, if they have both, there's both female organs and male organs are both visible. That would the marriage be valid, and would they have to disclose? So, for example, let's say this is a male in this case that wants to get married to a sister, and they have, again, as I said, both male and female organs, and they want to get married to a sister. Would they have to reveal their gender to this sister? And in terms of inheritance, how does Islam treat them as well? Can they inherit anything depending on what maybe the dominant organ is?
Okay.
Do you understand the question, sir?
Yeah. Islam does not want ambiguity in decision making. Everything has to be spelled out in clear terms. So before you marry anyone, Islam allows you to have a special look of that person, so that you will know that this is what is good for you, and this is not what is good for you. But in a case of hermaphrodites, it should be ascertained which of the organs is functional. If that of a man is the one functioning, or if one that is functional, it should be noted that you are going to wear gown tomorrow. It should be noted that you are going to marry that one. But for example, if the male organ is the one functional, that spouse should be considered as a male. So, and he can copulate with a female. But if both of them are working, then there's a problem. That marriage has to be terminated. Even the one I mentioned, that if the male organ is the one working, if the woman is pleased with it, then go along. Or if the husband is pleased with it, they go ahead. But if, and I will say again, if any of the parties is not pleased with it, that nikah is null and void. So it has to be clearly stated, and it has to be clearly checked. Is that clear, sir?
You've not answered it, but I guess the what you said can probably be applied to the other question. But so first of all, in a case, and maybe I'm probably answering the question here, but in the case of either is a female identified or a male, but they still have, okay, for example, there's a person that has male genitals, and maybe he also has breast, and maybe I don't know, maybe it's been identified, maybe the male organ is the dominant organ and part of his body, and he wants to get married. Is it required of him, or is it? So when I say required, I'm talking from a fiqh, like a legal point of view within the law now, that must he disclose this to the sister prior to marriage, or can they just go ahead with the marriage, and if the sister does not like it, they can? But I think I've kind of answered my question about, because I'm sort of reading it the way the question has asked it. That's why. So
No, you have not answered it. You have not answered it. It is, I said earlier that there are things to consider in marriage. If they are not obtainable, then that marriage should be terminated. That is why we must not make anything ambiguous. If a partner is an hermaphrodite, it has to be clearly spelled out for the other partner. the pros and cons of it. If that partner with a hermaphrodite partner, if an organ in him is working for male, while other one is not working at all, it should be considered as a male. If it is the female organ that is working and the other one is not working, she should be considered as a female. Now, that is another thing. Another important thing is that, are you pleased with it as a spouse? If you are pleased with it, then go ahead. If you are not pleased, you have every right to do what? To keep it to yourself. You keep it to yourself and move on. If you're not going to be happy, because we don't want a marriage whereby a partner will later abandon another partner because of what he could not get from him or her, and that he or she is getting from outside. No, don't abandon your wife, don't abandon your husband. It is to be sorted out on the day of Shahada, before on the day of before the day of marriage. So that is it.
Okay. So what about inheritance now? So two parts to these questions. In the case of a hermaphrodite whereby there's an ambiguity regarding their sex. So would they be able to inherit from their fathers? That's number one. Number two, if both parties agree to marry anyway, okay, I know you're a female with two genital whatever, or I know you're a male with two, but I'm gonna get married, maybe, which I believe is permissible in a way that maybe the lady doesn't have desire, or maybe the man doesn't have desire. But let's say whatever, they agree to get married, and they're not having any sexual relation, there's no consummation, nothing. Would that marriage be valid in that sense? And also, would the party that is not an hermaphrodite be, would the would they be able to inherit from each other, even though there's not been any sexual relation amongst them, but they both agreed that, okay, I know the problem you have, but I'm happy to marry you, that in that sense?
Yes, they are going to inherit if it is ascertained that one is a male and the other one is not working. So that male should be considered as a male in the state of distribution. And then Imam, what's it called? It should be spelled out that since we know him as an hermaphrodite, but we later knew that it is the only man organ that is working in him, it should be regarded and given the portion of a male. So if the woman organ is the one working in another partner, it should be regarded as a female. So on which you will not spend much. They will not spend much. So if it is regarded as a female, so you should just take half of what the males take, but they have to sensitize them very well. They need to be well educated about the injunctions of Islam before the distributor go ahead with it.
But what if there is no clarity? So we're talking of a child here now, not marriage. There's no clarity on which organ or which sex is dominant. And I don't know, years goes by, this person grows and grows to an adult, and yet they still don't know if it's a man or a woman, and the dad passed away, or maybe the mother passed away, and obviously inheritance comes into the question, and they're wondering, well, how do we categorize this person in terms of inheritance?
Okay. The attention of what was it called? The medical practitioners is to be sought. The attention is to be sought. So to carry out some medical experiments on the child or either of the blood. So they should consider, they should ascertain which is which. So with the recommendation of the, what's it called, medical doctors, there is nothing bad. There's nothing bad. So you have to seek their assistance and recommendation of, you work on their recommendation. If they say it's a female, then go by female portion. And if they say it is a male, then we go by the male portion. But if not, there's going to be a confusion, and every child has a portion from his or her father's left over. I pray Allah uphold you, and every what's it called, professional tools has to be administered and employed.
Jazakumullah khairan, sir. Yeah, you've touched on all the points. We can take one more question. If we have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask.
Nobody's asking question again.
Assalamu alaikum, I have one, and it has to do with issue of keeping pets. Which one is more preferable, dog or cat, and how old should the cat or the pet be before you can keep them as household pets? I know dog is not normally encouraged, but in terms of cats, what's your view on having pets, animal pets rather?
Cat is better. Cat is better. The domestic animal that could be allowed to sit with us and sleep with us in our rooms. Unlike dogs, dog should not be reared except for a genuine purpose or genuine purposes, like the one we all know. Our hunters can't do without what? Without what was it called? No, Solana.
Without a dog.
Our hunters can't do without a dog or dogs, and that is Islamically okay. That we should train our dogs on how to catch what's it called, bait, their own bait on the animals. So, and there is an injunction in Quran that says if any of your dog catches an animal and you are not pleased with it, if he is eating that animal, then you leave it for him. Allah just giving him food, giving it food. But if he brings it to you, then you are the owner and take care of it. You say Bismillah before he totally gives up the ghost. Then if you are able to say that it is haram, it is halal. But if you are not able to say that, it remains haram. So for security, we can also use dog for security if we are in an area where thieves operate. So you can rear dog, but with limitation to where they can go to. Unlike in your own place in the Western world, your pet can be sitting together with you in a bed, on a bed. I mean, dog, that is not normal. If at all you would rear dog, you cage them, you feed them as and when due, and then they take good care of the community. So, but a dog, if he rubs your body with his body, and there's nothing bad in that. You don't need to change the clothes. But if its body is what is wet, or he uses mouth to touch his clothes, to touch your clothes, then that clothes cannot be used to observe Salat anymore in the moment, except after it has been washed. Then if dog leak from any of your plate or pot, the Prophet ﷺ says, you wash that plate, but first one you wash with turab, that is sand. You wash it with it. Then for 7 times, then the other one is water. So to show how careful we should be while rearing dog. Thank you very much.
Shukran, doctor.